One. Hey everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I am your host, Zanman Shane Subudi, along with my good buddy Jeff. And
Hello.
Jeff, it was only 2 short weeks ago that I was sitting here bitching and moaning and lamenting how this guy, Evil, is the guy that they chose to not only win New Japan Cup, but then last week, win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And you know what? NJPW is not like WWE or some other promotions we could think of probably in the past where image is everything. But god damn if he doesn't look like a star now.
The one thing about NJPW I will give them, they know when to pull the trigger on someone. It's like we thought that same way about Okada in 2011. We thought that way about Jay White. Well, you did. I was a huge fan, but a lot of people thought that way about Jay White last year. It's for some reason NJPW just knows when to pull the trigger. And when they pull that trigger, it's the right time. And we just have to start learning to trust them. I don't know what it is about Gato and his booking, but that man knows what he's doing. And when he pulls that trigger, it's at the right time. He's got the right image in mind. Everything is going to work out okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, he looks like a star now. He looks like the complete package. He goes over those titles, and he looks like, I mean, he looks so perfect with those holding those two double golds up, and he looks like an unbeatable guy. And then, you know, we talked about last week how the main event of Dominion wasn't that good, and I put, I mean, it was a great story, but it wasn't that good of a match.
No.
And I talked about how I thought of it. A lot of it was actually on the part of Naito being sloppy in there. And but I think I think there's a couple of factors. The other factor I think was that Evil was just not comfortable in that role yet, and now he is. He does this match he had in Senguko Lord um, against Takahashi against Hiromu was just great, and I thought Evil looked more comfortable in his own skin. I thought he looked like a dominant force, and I don't know when the hell we started channeling Kurt Angle, but God,
Right?
boy did
I
he.
was thinking that too. Is like, where the fuck? I'm watching this. I'm like, where the fuck that come from? That's not evil. And he. There was one thing I saw. Well, two things I want to comment on. Three actually, but one thing that I saw out of evil is the crowd pops when he used to use the ref to help him with the magic killer and that low below kick and everything. This time it didn't work. It worked when he was a face because that was a crowd pop. Now it didn't work when he was a heel. So it was like it added to that I hate evil feeling because it was like the one thing I wanted to see didn't happen.
Yeah,
It
how great was it that Red Shoes, when he was a face, he would kind of like put his hands up like, what do I do? And then now that he was a heel and he hates what Evil's become, he just shoves him off of there. You know.
right, exactly. It was one of those and we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the finals between Okada and Evil where the little tiny things that people don't really notice because it's just like, oh yeah, that was a fun moment, but wait, it didn't happen. Um, those little tiny things that they do in these matches can mean so much down the line. And when you look at the fact that he set up Hiromu for the Magic Killer, and Red Shoes shoved him off, and there were a couple other moments where Red Shoes was like, no man, you're an asshole now. So he didn't give him the benefit of the doubt, or he didn't, he started counting quicker, little things like that. Those little tiny things can make or break a heel so much. And I felt like everybody in this match, Hiromu again. I'm sorry, but Hiromu, after this match and his New Japan Cup performance, he is easily my wrestler of the year. I can't think of a number two that is that close. I thought Will Ospreay, but Will Ospreay has been around for months. Right now, it's Hiromu. But regardless, there were things that they did in this match that I looked at it and went, "What the hell are they? Holy shit! Really?" So many little, tiny, intricate details, right down to the slaps and the chops that they did. It just felt like it meant so much more.
Yeah, and aside from being up, I up in in the running, I as wrestler of the year for Hiromu, if not the out and out wrestler of the year, he's also got to be in the discussion for becoming one of the four pillars of the company. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think there's some probably so concerned about his neck, like how long is it going to hold up? But if it does hold up, say for another couple of years, I think he's got to be in that spot in that running to be G1 winner and to be wrestling for the title at Wrestle Kingdom.
But who does he replace? The Ace? I mean, we
Uh,
talked about that last year. It
well,
was still, it was Omega, it was Tanahashi, it was Naito and Okada, and then Omega left, and kind of Jay White snuck into that Omega spot. And still, I mean, if you think about it, if you sincerely look at it right now,
if our country keeps going the way it is right now, Jay White's never going to get out of the country, and he's going to
it's a good
have to be
point.
replaced
That's
as one of the four pillars.
but who does who does Hiromu replace? Does he replace Naito?
Um,
Like
it could be Naito depending on how bad his knees really are. It could be Ibushi because Ibushi just um he's basically just had this quick run as one of the four pillars. It's not something where I don't think he can easily be replaced. And then
I never even truly looked at him as a pillar, though. It was always still Tanahashi to me, even though Ibushi had that run. To me, it was always still Tanahashi.
well, the four guys that were in the running for double gold though did not include Tanahashi.
No, I get that, but as far as the pillars of the company, the ones that are gonna be the focus of the future, Ibushi never hit that level to me. And I know how great he is. I love his matches. I love how he is. I just never felt like he ever reached that Tanahashi level.
Yeah, it's weird
And
because
Jay,
we didn't really talk about that in 2018, but I mean, Shibata was getting very close to being there.
oh yeah,
If
absolutely.
if he hadn't made that huge mistake and knocked himself out of wrestling, he probably would have won the G1 that year and been right there in the running for it.
Oh, absolutely. And both you and I thought that. And there was a time we thought Sonata was making his way there. But ultimately, when Omega left, kind of Jay White jumped into that spot. And I never really felt like Kota Ibushi took that from Tanahashi.
On the other hand, like we talked about last week, this might be a new era for New Japan where there's not just those four pillars when there's like a more wide open group of guys that can be in the running for the main event.
That kind of brings me to one of the other thoughts I thought about this, and I'm going to bring them up right now. The things that I thought about were number one, the crowd. When was the last time an American crowd followed the rules the way a Japanese crowd did? They said no yelling. The Japanese crowd didn't yell once. If this was America, they'd be screaming at the top of their lungs saying, "You don't control me, blah, blah, blah." The American or the Japanese crowd went, "You know what? Our wrestlers are more important than COVID. We're just going to sit here and clap like we're told to do."
Yep.
To me, I felt like, wow, what a statement and what a great thing that whether you agree or disagree, you respect the people around you and the people in the ring, so you're not going to scream at the top of your lungs. If this was America, they'd all have their masks off, there'd be signs, they'd be screaming and yelling, and it would be a complete cluster. But in Japan, they're like, you know what? We respect these guys too much. They entertain us. Yes, we paid our money, but we paid our money to see them entertain us. We don't want them to get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crowds, and we talked about this before, but how respectful the Japanese people are. I mean, here we got people bitching because they don't want to wear a mask to go into a goddamn grocery store. And now and in Japan, we've got fans going in there wearing masks for a 3 hour wrestling event and not and still being excited and stomping their feet and enjoying themselves rather than complaining about how they're a little bit inconvenienced.
And not only that, they've been doing it for years. I mean, I can't remember the last time I watched a New Japan show. I'd have to go back 10 years since the last time I saw them without a mask on.
Right.
Someone in the crowd without a mask on.
Someone in the crowd, but now it's the entire culture,
Right.
and you don't, I shouldn't say the entire culture, but the entire populace of the arenas, and you don't see them. I mean, and maybe some of them are resentful of it, but I mean, you don't see them bitching about it. You don't hear that on the news or anything like that. Whereas here you have, not even the president can follow the goddamn laws.
Right. Exactly. And it just
So,
part of
yeah,
me is ashamed, but at the same time, it's like, whatever. I'm working from home. I don't care. You guys kill each other. I'm out here in my house. You're not getting me with your virus.
yeah,
Just saying.
and I was
Just
saying,
saying.
and I was saying the same thing to Melissa last week. I was like, I explained to her what was going on in the New Japan shows because she doesn't watch New Japan with me. She really watches any wrestling with me anymore. But I was explaining to her what was going on, and she's like, "That would never happen in the United States." I was like, "I know. There's no way
Right.
that the wrestling fans would sit there, even if they did wear masks, that they would sit there, just stomping their feet or clapping their hands, rather than yelling and carrying on and all that kind of stuff. I think it's really, and I think it gives kind of a nice dynamic because instead of like the yay and the boo, you kind of have the clap and the stomp, which is really kind of fun, you know.
I, to be honest, I kind of really did enjoy that too, with just the yay or just them clapping and stomping and not selling. I said this a while ago. I think New Japan is one of the best um, companies out there for a no crowd audience.
Yep.
Because outside of maybe one or two wrestlers, they don't need that pop. They don't need that crowd enthusiasm. And even Toru Yano, who is one of those two wrestlers, adapted whatever he was doing for the no crowd there. So I've never felt like the Japanese style needs that crowd. So even now, just having the fans clap and applaud really brought so much more to it, but it still didn't feel like, oh, I need to have them cheering for the high spots.
No, it doesn't. And there's been plenty of times like watching these matches in New Japan Cup and watching Dominion and then watching this show at Sengoku Lord, watching the Road 2 shows where I kind of forget there isn't a crowd or there's only a limited crowd because
Right,
it's such a different environment than what we're used to um, in the United States. I mean, I think there's been times watching AEW where I've kind of felt that way a little bit, but not for entire shows like I have for New Japan.
right.
And I think also some of it is like the camera work, some of it is just how well the guys that are in the ring hold your attention. But I do feel like like you said, it's most of the guys. I mean, I do feel there's a couple of guys that do suffer when there is no crowd there,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yano, Okada,
yeah, Sonata.
Sonata, yes.
Because some of Sonata's big spots are things that where the crowd reacting is huge. Like when I'm
Like the
trying to
Paradise Lock.
right when there's a Paradise Lock and there's no crowd reaction, it just looks goofy as hell. You know, so
No, I get that, but ultimately I just feel like every wrestler there, and even like Yano has kind of adapted his style a little
fuck,
bit.
fuck Yano.
Even though it's well, yeah, I can't disagree with that statement ever because I no, I just can't. He's awful. Um, I really do want to see him back in the day, though. I might go back and watch some of the early 2000s, late 90s, just to see how he was, because I can't believe this guy was this when he was a heel. I just can't. But anyway, besides the point, I want to say this right now so we don't forget it because it might be a topic I want to talk about at length, but I know we've got the rest of the show to get to. So I'm going to throw it out there. Let's put it on the back burner and talk about it in a bit. When was the last time a non heel IWGP heavyweight champion held the title for more than one defense?
uh, a non-heel, well, it would have been Okada, right?
Yeah, and his first run? Because Chaos turned face probably around 13 or 14 under Okada's leadership. So, if you go back to WrestleMania 10, it was face versus face with Tanahashi and Okada. And, Jay White won it, but Jay White is probably the last real heel to win it before Evil,
Yeah.
and he never got that title defense. He lost it in his first defense. Evil is probably the first actual heel to get an IWGP Heavyweight title victory since Okada back in 2012.
Oh, you're saying I thought you were saying that first non-heel to. Okay, so you're talking
No,
about
no,
an actual heel.
the actual heel, because it was shortly after he won that Chaos turned face.
Well, when Naito won it from Okada, he had one successful title defense against Ishii before losing it back to
Okay,
Okada.
okay, so 2014 then, but
It
still,
was 2016, right? 2016.
but regardless, that we're still looking at 4 years since a heel actually had a title defense, and to be honest, only one heel has held that title outside of Evil since then.
Well, only two guys since um 2017 or 20 no 20 yeah since 2016 have had more than one defense of the title at all, and that's Okada
Okada, yep,
and or I'm sorry, more than one successful defense of the title, and that's Okada and Omega.
right.
So I mean, Tanahashi lost it in his first defense. White lost it in his first defense. Naito lost it in both of his second defenses. And then I guess we'll have to see how Evil does against Naito in this next defense.
But he did win it against Hiromu, which
I know, but I'm saying
pisses
even,
me off.
I'm saying having multiple defenses.
Right. I'm just saying one defense because White had it and lost on his first defense. Outside of that, it was Naito the last time anybody other than Okada, Tanahashi, Omega held the belt.
Yeah,
Well, and Naito. But by the time Naito got it the second time, that is clearly a face faction. Although in Sengoku, they kind of went back to their roots, back to their heel roots with the referee, and I like it.
well, something's got to
I kind
change, right?
what's that?
Something's got to change, right?
I
They had their hearts ripped out of them.
Yeah, and I do truly miss this version of Lij, the anti-heroes. We haven't had them as anti-heroes in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still have been. It's just that they've been. It's so weird the way that New Japan books that way. Just because I mean, I love it. I mean, I love the promotion to death. But I mean, just because they have the factions, they always kind of find one faction to face another faction, and then it just doesn't always feel like that sometimes they have a true identity of as anti-heroes or heroes or heels or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, both Chaos, I mean, Chaos is probably the only true face faction right now.
Yeah, and Suzuki-gun and Bullet Club are both heel factions.
Yep, and Lij is somewhere in the middle. But even Chaos, there was a time when they were a straight up heel faction.
You're
And it
forget, you're,
wasn't
you're
an,
you're you're forgetting about Taguchi Japan though. How dare you, sir? How dare
oh
you?
my God. Oh, and Blue Justice. I forgot about Blue Justice. Oh, and what about GBH? Wait, are they heel or face, or do we even care about them anymore?
Uh,
Like,
I don't.
to be
They're
to
so closely aligned with chaos. I don't think it really matters.
to be honest, I'm such a fan of Makabe that I will always care about GBH. There's something weird about the fact that he and Honma never actually left that faction to join Chaos.
Hmm.
That it's really intriguing to me.
And I really get a kick out of every time that Hanma misses the Kakeshi.
Oh yeah, every time, like 75 times per match, he misses that,
I know.
which is great every single time.
Oh, speaking of which, that was so great when Kevin Kelly's like, in that 6-man tag, he was like, "Oh, this move never fails. It is 100% success rate." He's like, "Wait, it worked?"
What was that too?
that was
Oh,
that was the that was the the hip attack
Taguchi and the
under
hip.
the
Yep,
top rope. Yeah.
yep. That made me laugh a lot. I literally I had to rewind that because I wasn't 100% paying attention. It was a 10-man tag
Yeah.
or 6-man tag, and I wasn't 100% paying attention. I heard him screaming, "Wait, that worked!"
Yeah, it was really something. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it was supposed to be an 8-man tag, and it turned out being a 6-man tag because Honma and uh, who was the other guy? Somebody was it? Oh, it was the young lion, Yoda Suji. They were both on a TV show where one of the people on the show that they never had any contact with had COVID.
Well,
So
you got to give it up to New Japan because they actually stuck to that.
they give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah, where I'm starting to think nobody else does, except for maybe Ring of Honor, who still hasn't had a show.
I think and as much as I want Ring of Honor back, I really don't want them back without fans. I think we talked about this before, where the fans are such a character in Ring of Honor. I just don't see how it would work.
Well, so much of their acts are based on the fans,
Yeah,
where it's a little different. Like, I mean, WWE, they're still able, they still have great performers. And I'm not saying Ring of Honor doesn't. AEW still has a great performers and everything, but a lot of those guys can get away without fans to still tell their story. I really feel like the upper echelon of NJPW or of Ring of Honor needs the fans to tell their story. Jay Lethal, Dalton Castle, the Briscoes, Marty Skrull. I think without the fans and the fans' reaction to their signature moves, their finishers, and so on, I just don't think they have the same type of impact as a guy like John Moxley or Hiromu or any of those guys.
yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah, I mean it's really something. It's really something with like you're talking about with New Japan's world title soon. But I think a lot of it is just simply because they like to heat people up and give them a test run, and then they go back to the old standby. So I'm really hope. So I'm really interested to see, and I'm really hoping that Naito does not get the title back right away from Evil. He
No,
probably he
I don't
probably he
either.
probably will, but I really don't want to see it, especially since, like I said, Evil looks like a star right now. He looks like the champion, and
I
and
would
I
have rather seen, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I would have rather seen Evil run through every member of LIJ before Naito got a shot. Because eventually Evil is going to have to get his comeuppance. He's the heel, LIJ is the face. It's going to happen. And there's nobody else in that faction outside of maybe Sonata where I would look at and go, yeah, it's double title holder contender.
Yeah, see that's the thing is I want Sonata to be the guy that gives him the comeuppance because he was the guy that because Sonata's the guy he betrayed first, and Sonata was his tag team partner. You know,
So maybe this is a way to,
whether it's for the title or not, I still think it's Sonata that should get the final revenge on him.
and maybe that's what they're setting up with Naito getting his revenge match now, or what, in a week? Where, well, actually, he got it the next night, didn't he? No, it was a it was a tag team match, wasn't it?
I don't know. I didn't see any power. I didn't see any of the summer struggle, so I don't know what the. I mean, it sure looked like when I was looking at like the. I was looking at the thumbnails on the New Japan World. It sure looked like Naito had challenged him for the next night for the second night of Summer Struggle, but I don't know.
If I remember right, because I after I got done with Sengoku, I actually looked. I started to watch it, and if I remember right, it was a tag match that
Okay.
night. So, which means Naito's match is still coming up, probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. But maybe this is a way to clear Naito out of the way so that Sonata can come in and be the guy.
Yeah.
But all
Or it could even be the Naito gets the the IWGP title, and maybe Sonata later on takes the Intercontinental title to finish the revenge.
I just I it's at a weird spot because I think Evil needs to have his comeuppance, and only Naito is really the guy that can give that unless Naito's taken a step back. And but I also at the same time don't feel like Evil should lose the belt anytime within the next 6 months.
No, I would say the earliest he should lose is Wrestle Kingdom
Yep, I agree.
because
I agree 100%.
that gives time to tell the story of a Bullet Club dominating the promotion. Bullet Bullet Club could get the is going to get the junior heavyweight title from Hiromu. I'm not saying that they're going to, I guess for sure, but I think that that'd be the next step. And then, maybe they have some tag team in there that does something. Maybe get the junior heavyweight tag straps with Takahashi and um,
The Tokyo Pimp,
yeah, with the Pimp
Ishimori and
and Ishimori.
Takahashi.
Yeah, or maybe even Dick Togo. Dick Togo's a junior heavyweight, right?
Oh, no.
He was.
No more Dick Togo.
Oh, I mean, come on,
Please.
he
Dear
was
God, no more Dick Togo. I've seen enough of him to last me a lifetime.
Wasn't it great that he was all in white like Naito wears though? I thought that was such a great touch to kind of rub in the face of Naito.
Well, not just Naito, but Jay White does that too. So it's kind of a callback to both of them.
Right, but Naito wears the white suit on his way to the ring, like Togo was wearing.
Yeah. And Jay White just wears the white in general.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a callback to both of them. And to be honest, I never knew the white meant evil in Japan until you told me.
Oh,
So it kind of made more sense now because Togo, after his what they call him, the spoiler,
yep.
after he spoiled Naito's night, is the ultimate heel in New Japan. No matter what Evil did, Togo is still the ultimate heel.
Yeah. Naito
So
Naito gets his revenge on Togo for the garrote.
so until um, Naito gets rid of Togo, Evil will never be the ultimate heel. No matter what Evil did, Togo is the one that cost him the title.
And that's another reason I love New Japan. No, you would not see this in any of the major U.S. promotions where one faction has a steel glove they hit people with, and the other faction has a garrote they're choking people out
Right?
with.
Right?
You just would not get away with strangling somebody like that on U.S. television.
No, you wouldn't. But I was going to say this before, but now that New Japan is back and this tournament, and it's one of the few, this is probably the first tournament I've watched as many matches as I did. Yes, I skipped one or two. Probably about a dozen matches, because they were just people I just did not care about. But literally everybody in the top four, I watched every one of their matches, um, and I am so happy New Japan Pro Wrestling is back. I can't tell you how happy I am. And there may be a language barrier. I may have to wait a few days for Kevin Kelly to do the announcing, but ultimately, I am so happy New Japan Pro Wrestling is back.
Not only are they back, but they're back with a vengeance, man. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they're putting on a big show every couple of weeks, and if not more. And I mean, they had three just this past weekend, and
right.
it's just great to see them firing on all cylinders like this and trying making up for lost time as much as possible because one of the things that we I wouldn't actually we didn't like, but that was we kind of hand waved with New Japan is that they would have these road two tours that would last a week or two, and then they'd have a big show. Now it seems like every show is a big show.
Well,
And
and
I and
the
I and just like I told you the other I think yesterday or the day before, like I watched that Road Two show they had before this one, and that was a really damn good show. I really enjoyed the hell out of it.
the
So
thing I didn't mind about the Road 2 tours is they kind of spotlighted some of the other titles. So you'd get the IC title, you'd get the Never title in a main event spot.
hmm
And right now, since they're not doing that, you're not getting those titles main evented. But ultimately, I don't care. You're still getting Shingo putting on great matches regardless of where he is on the card. The heavyweight and the IC title are combined. So unfortunately they're combined. I still think Naito should have lost that to Kenta, or would have made more sense, especially when you look at Evil turning. That would have made a lot more sense. But
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Is you and I have kind of been in agreement about that, but I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I don't think it is unfortunate right now that those titles are combined, because the U.S. titles also over here in the United States, where it's not being defended in Japan.
right,
Um, the never open and with the Intercontinental title kind of on the shelf right now as part of the double gold, that gives a lot of spotlight right now to the never openweight championship and to what Shingo's doing with that.
and
I mean,
Shingo's doing an amazing job.
he is. So it's kind of become the de facto mid card title in New Japan right now, and the matches have been so exciting. I'm kind of glad there isn't Intercontinental and World title matches both going on at the same time because it would take a little bit of shine away from what Shingo's doing in those matches.
And I know I dogged you last week about Desperado and everything, but holy shit, what a match!
Yep,
Like seriously, I did not realize Desperado could do that.
he is
Could
so
put on a
fucking
match
good,
like
man.
that.
He is so
That was
good.
amazing.
And I
And I
love
guess,
I love his version of the match that you and I the move that you and I first saw was the Brock Lock. The you
yep,
know the his numero uno or numero dos, the stretch muffler. God, is that a
yep.
great move? And he puts it
It,
on so well, and every time he put it on, it really felt like the match could be over.
yeah, I, I I was really impressed with him, and Shingo just continues to amaze. But what do you expect out of Shingo? He just seriously dominated Noah for a decade, so you knew he was going to be good. But watching him in these matches was just flat out amazing.
Yeah, and he's made the never openweight title, his own the way that Shibata did. So I mean, Goto was kind of like the de facto gatekeeper and holder of that title, but he never really felt like he owned that division, and in a way that I think Shingo does feel that way.
Well, I think the last one that did was Ishii.
Yeah, but even Ishii traded it with Shibata and then with Goto, you know.
True.
Or no, I'm sorry, with Makabe and then Shibata. I don't think he ever faced Goto for it, did he? Maybe he did.
He did, but I think he lost it, or did he win it? It was at a. It wasn't a Wrestle Kingdom. It was like a Dominion, but then he lost it to uh, the singing guy,
This oh
part of Dangerous Techers. What
yeah, yeah,
the guy that?
Bizarro Tanahashi, Taichi.
Yeah, that guy. Um, go get a blanket, boo. They're on your bed.
Yeah, yeah, and
Then get it off
and
Daddy's bed.
I can never talk about those two guys together without saying
Sorry.
once again they should be a goddamn tag team.
Right?
Goto and Ishii should be a tag team together. So I don't understand that why why you stick Yano in there with Ishii when Ishii and Goto would be a pair of ass kickers.
And the problem is, and like I said, I want to go back and see Yano 10 years ago to see if he was actually a good wrestler or if he's been this comedy act his entire career.
What? Well, I haven't experienced it myself, but Kevin Kelly has definitely said on commentary he used to be a great technical wrestler. So
Yeah, and that's I've heard that a few times too, and that's kind of why I want to go back to like '09, '08, and see him as this great technical wrestler, or has he been this comedy act his entire career?
and speaking of guys that had past careers, I totally forgot that that Yujiro Takahashi had been the never
Right?
openweight champion before.
Yep, I heard that too.
And I did know that somewhere in the back of my mind, and we said it like, oh yeah, he was. That's right.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, wait, no, wait, oh yeah, yeah, yep, I remember. Okay, yeah, okay, continue.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm
But
pretty sure he was the champion at Wrestle Kingdom 9. No, not 9. Wrestle Kingdom 8.
Shingo was one of those guys that when he came in, just everything I knew about him from Noah, I was expecting this guy
Dragon
to
Gate.
be. No, it was Noah. I thought
Dragon
he was
Gate.
Noah.
Dragon Gate.
Was it? Was it Dragon Gate?
Yeah.
Regardless, he dominated the promotion he was in, and I expected him to come in and be that dominant force. And it was a little disheartening that he was a junior And yeah, he went the whole year undefeated and so on, but it was still a little disappointing. So now to see him in that never spot, I really don't. And I said this last week when I was all upset about Desperado and hand in the air, praise whatever. The fact that Desperado put on the match he did with him, I eat every word I said last week. But ultimately, I still do not want to see him only in there against juniors.
Hmm.
I want to see him in there against heavyweights, and I want to see what he can do.
No, I agree with that point. And but I look at when I look at Desperado, just like when I looked at Shingo or um, Show now, I don't see him as a junior. He does not look like a junior heavyweight to me. It
Well, and
doesn't mean that he isn't, but he doesn't look like one. He doesn't. He looks like he's over the 100 kilo mark to me. Doesn't he look like that way to you?
Desperado does, yeah,
Yeah.
because he looked heavier than Shingo. And Kevin Kelly said it too, and it kind of shocked me. When did Will Ospreay officially join the heavyweight rank?
He's
It
always
was
been
just
he's been a kind of a hybrid for the last couple of years.
he's been a hybrid. But Kevin said it on the show where Will Ospreay, who used to be a junior, is not a junior anymore. But Tanahashi held his own against him too.
I think that Will Ospreay will be a junior whenever New Japan needs him to be a junior.
Yeah, I agree. And I just, as much as I'm loving
And
Japan,
I've been wondering if this, and obviously we've seen, we saw the arena shows where Osprey was, was in still in Great Britain. But I'm wondering why the hell is he in Great Britain? Because just like Zack Sabre Jr., he is a permanent resident of Japan now. So how did he get stuck where he can't go back to the country?
because his wife live or his girlfriend lives there, B Priestley.
But I thought they moved in together in Japan because she was wrestling for Stardom.
It's possible, but
You know,
when the stay-at-home stuff started, he might have already been in Great Britain and was just not allowed back in the country. Kind of like the guys in the U or that are stuck in the U.S. Kenta and Jay White and everybody.
right. But Kenta is a resident of the United States now. So
But Jay
our
White is
bullet
still Australian.
right, but he that's my point is that I would think you'd be able to get back to go back to your country that you actually are a resident in.
To be honest, I had a guy who lives next to me. He is a resident of the U.S. He owns a house 2 doors down, but he also owns a house in Greece. And when all this started, he was not allowed to leave Greece until 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And he's not somebody that is there with the public. He's just a homeowner up here. He wanted to come up for a summer home. This is not a guy who's going to be in there sweating and sneezing and coughing, whatever on other human beings. So I kind of get why Jay White is stuck in the US simply because I have a neighbor who's not anywhere near that who didn't get back till 2 weeks ago.
No, right. No, I can understand why Jay White's stuck in the U.S. because he doesn't. I My point was with Will Ospreay because
Will
because
Osprey too.
yeah because he
And
and you're talking about B Priestley moving. I'm almost positive B Priestley was the Stardom champion at the same time Will Ospreay was the junior heavyweight champion
yeah, and that's
in
probably
Japan.
true.
Yeah. So
But remember, a week before the lockdown, she was also in the U.S. trying to. She was wrestling for AEW,
yeah,
and then they did that show in New England, the No Fans Allowed, whatever. I can't remember the name of the company, but the No Fans Monday or whatever was 2 weeks after the lockdown happened,
yeah.
and they were in New England
I guess if Horseface can get
or
locked
in England.
can
Sorry.
I guess if Horseface can get stuck in Mexico, Will Ospreay can get stuck in Great Britain.
Well, she's there with Daga.
Yeah, Horseface and Dogface. We talked about that before.
It's funny how she was hot before, but now she's horse faced because of Daga.
No, you always thought she was hot. I didn't think.
Oh,
I think I always thought she was kind of a butterface.
yeah, but the fact that she was Blanchard and part of the original Four Horsemen, that just escalated her hotness right there.
She was not part of the Four Horsemen.
No, but her father was.
Yes.
That name will ever be a part of the Four Horsemen. I don't care if it's Gary fucking Blanchard. Her great 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 grandson, he will be a part of the Four Horsemen.
Why don't you feel that way about Charlotte Flair then?
I never said I didn't.
I didn't think you thought Charlotte was hot. So okay,
No, she is
okay,
in her weird way because she is a horseman.
fair enough.
I mean, if Arn has a daughter, or Oli, or JJ Dillon, they're going to be hot too because they're a horseman.
You know what's funny? We talked about how Okada's new finishing move is kind of boring, and it's not even really a
The-
Cobra Clutch. And
It's the money clip.
somehow he's got a new stupid name for it called the Money Clip. I mean, what the hell?
When Kevin Kelly said that, I was like, really?
Me too.
Seriously,
I roll.
really?
It really is an eye rolling name, isn't it?
And the fact that he was like, "Well, Okada pulled me aside and told me if I put this move on Ishim or on was it Taka? Who do you wrestle in this match? Oh,
Takahashi.
Yujiro.
Yeah.
Um, when he said that, I was like, "Come on, really?"
Pulled you aside how? It must have been virtually pulling you aside.
Considering you're like 8,000 miles away,
Yeah.
and you're doing this over radio, but he pulled you aside to tell you this is the money clip. And the fact that it's the money clip just annoys me too because it's such a horrible name.
It's a horrible name for a horrible move.
Well, it's a Cobra Clutch. I mean, and to old school wrestling fans, the Cobra Clutch actually does mean something.
Yes, but not the way he applies it. That's my point. Like he puts no pressure behind it. I mean, it's like John Cena's version of the STF.
And he does it 15 times a match.
I know
Jesus Christ. It should
exactly.
be a finisher, not thrown on just mid match to see what happens. Now it's a rest mood. Rest move.
It is. It looks like a rest move, and the weird thing is that with the way this is a move that he just kind of came up with during the COVID thing. So
Right.
we really have no way of knowing how the crowd is actually going to react to it. You know what I mean?
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's going to be like a big crowd popping move anyway. But we have no idea because the crowd isn't, can't even really react to what he's doing.
I agree. I mean, I can't imagine, as smart as the Japanese crowd is, that they're going to get into it when it's happening 5, 6, 7 times in a 20-minute match.
No, that it really is a poor decision for a finisher for Okada, especially when like 2 years ago that was like going to be his downfall against Naito. Remember,
Right,
Naito came up with a move like that just to hurt Okada's arm and neck, so he couldn't do the Rainmaker. So
right.
it's kind of a weird juxtaposition for Okada to be putting that into action as one of his, or actually as his primary finisher now. But
I
he's
love
finished
it
it so many
when
times
your
since then.
mic just randomly unplugs.
I would much prefer that it kind of had done some kind of a arm or leg finisher as opposed to the damn Cobra Clutch.
I wouldn't mind the Cobra Clutch if it was a finisher, not 7 to 8 times a match. I mean, even against Ishimori, he threw that on, what, 5 times?
Yep.
And I'm going to say this straight up. I love Ishimori. I always have. I love his character. I've never been a fan of his wrestling. When I saw his match against Okada, I legitimately texted Shane and I was like, holy shit, Okada's the greatest wrestler ever because he made Ishimori look like a superstar.
No, no, no.
Shane,
Wait. You're saying Ishimori, but you mean Takahashi.
Takahashi, I'm sorry. He made Takahashi look like a superstar. And Shane was like, he's always been a great technical wrestler, he just gets in bad situations. I legitimately went back because I was ahead of him anyway and had some time to kill. So I went back and watched a couple of his matches from, 5, 6 years ago when he was in Chaos and then first went to Bullet Club. That dude is good.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
did that? How did he not ever get higher than he is? Is it his gimmick that held him back?
Um, I think it's just that there's so many talented guys in New Japan. There's the Heat guys up when as they need them, and I mean it's the same thing with Yoshihashi. I mean he's boring as a bag of socks, but the guy
Right.
can go in the ring. When he
Exactly.
gets tapped on the shoulder, the guy's got the guy can put forth a four-star match without breaking a sweat. You
So
know,
he's Dolph Ziggler.
yeah. But honestly, I didn't think this match against against Okada was that good. I really didn't.
I thought it was better than I was expecting.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean, it's not a 4-star match. I'd say maybe 3.5, maybe 3.5. But
But it's, in saying that it wasn't that great of a match, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make this point that I'm not saying Takahashi didn't do a great job. I'm saying Okada's fucking mailing it in right now,
well, and he's not the
and he has been
same
for
without the
weeks.
crowds. He's not the same without the crowds. He's one of those 2 or 3 wrestlers in NJPW that needs the crowd's pops to make his stuff work. And the fact that he keeps
Well,
going back to this money clip 7 to 8 times a match really brings down his work rate.
I think it's a combination of the fact that he needs the crowds and that or that to for his for him to really be the same Okada, and also that he's is just not trying that hard because he knows the crowds aren't there.
That's
You know,
possible. Yeah. But he a lot of his
but yeah, this
moveset.
money clip, he really needs to find a way to edge it in better in matches and make it more dramatic. That he's only putting in the closing sequences, like he would with the like the Rainmaker itself. Like he's not going to go
Right.
for the Rainmaker 5 minutes into the. I mean, yes, he did often in big matches go for it really early just as a dramatic moment, but he's not going to like go with like 10 minutes in the match going, okay, now it's time to try the Rainmaker. No, it doesn't happen that way.
Right. Against a
So why
guy
are you doing that with a submission move?
like Yujiro, the Rainmaker wouldn't have made it in until the last 2 or 3 minutes of the match.
Right.
So why was this money clip move in the first 5 minutes?
Exactly.
It's and I hate to dog this man. You and I both agreed that of the 2010s, he's easily the wrestler of the decade. He and I think it was about 2 weeks ago where we first started talking about it, and I was like, you know what? He could be the wrestler of all time, except he will not change his personality. He won't change his gimmick. And then he does change his gimmick and adds this move, and this move actually makes everything worse because he overuses it. If it was a finisher and a true finisher, like he'd do the Rainmaker and Heavy Rain and everything else, and only whip out the money clip to be the finisher, I'd be a little more okay with it. But the fact that we see that damn move 7, 8, 9 times a match, it's too much.
No,
It's just too
You
much.
know how Kushida always had the hoverboard lock as his finisher, right? But he would use like a
Yep.
cross arm breaker or a Fujiwara armbar to set it up. You know,
Right.
that's what Okada needs is another submission move to work on the neck and the shoulder area, to work on the neck and the head area before going with the money clip.
Or how about this weird thought? Work on the neck as just in other move sets before you even come to that finisher.
Yeah, like Ric Flair would do with the legs. Yeah.
Or like Austin would do with his neck. With the stunner was his finisher. He worked on the head throughout the majority of his matches. I mean, he had a couple other signature moves that didn't involve the head, but ultimately his entire attack was the head. So when he hit that stunner, it made sense. Okada's not doing that.
No, he's not, and that's what I'm saying. He needs to factor it. I mean, it does make sense, like to the end of the match where he'll hit like the Rainmaker in a big match to to set up Money Clip,
Right.
but he needs to do other things like and actually that's where the Tombstone makes sense too. So I mean in that sense, Money Clip works because it does work with the rest of his offense, but he just needs to use it less often.
Well,
Maybe
even
maybe
Heavy Rain works with it,
yeah, but how often does he actually use Heavy Rain?
which makes me sad because
I know,
that's like his best move ever,
but he uses it maybe what 4 times a year. So it's only in the big matches where he you know needs to pull it out.
which is
Oh
still
oh
sad because I
oh.
think that should be his finisher,
Speaking
plain
of
and simple.
speaking of moves that you don't see very often, that like suplex into a brainbuster into a flatliner that Hiromu did to
Right?
Evil was just like holy
There were,
shit.
there were a lot of things Hiromu did where I looked at it and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Holy shit, he's a superstar.
Yeah.
Hiromu in his match against Evil, you take everything he did in the New Japan Cup, which made him a superstar, it was so escalated. In that match against Evil, there were things that Hiromu did where I was like, what the fuck did I just see?
Yeah, this
Literally, I watched that match 3 times because it was that good. And it wasn't that good because it's like, oh, it's a 7-star match and one of the greatest of all times. It was that good because of Hiromu's performance. We took Hiromu from this junior heavyweight who's the best junior in the world to this upper echelon where I am legitimately looking at him as one of the best wrestlers in the world right now.
yeah, this is the greatest New Japan Cup tournament of all time because not only did it get the Money Clip over as a great finisher for Okada, but
Oh,
we also
oh,
had we
my
also had
God.
we
Did
also
you
had
say that really?
we also had my favorite match of the year in Nagata versus Minoru Suzuki.
Yep.
We had and then we had star making performances by El Desperado, Sho, Hiromu Takahashi, and Evil. I mean that's just an amazing thing to do over the course of 2 weeks.
Well, and the funny thing is, before that match,
And that incredible storytelling match that just like kind of blew both of our minds with the finish
right,
between Hiromu and Yano.
right. But the fact that you actually said that Nagata and Suzuki is your match of the year blows my mind for two
Not my
reasons.
match of the year, my 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 favorite match of the year, not necessarily my match of the year. I'm sorry, go ahead.
For two reasons, because up until then, my favorite match of the year was the Bucks against Page and Omega.
Yep.
Still might be my match of the year. I haven't decided yet, but I'm right there with you. My favorite match of the year, where I was on the edge of my seat watching every move that happened, and not only watched it once, but had to watch it twice. And when I watched it the second time, was still on the edge of my seat after I knew the outcome,
And
was Nagata versus Suzuki.
you know what?
That was such an amazing match.
Those motherfuckers been fighting ever since.
Yeah. So we're gonna get another one, but
Yeah, I know. It's great.
ultimately, I'm right there with you because that was easily my favorite match of the year.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because it was new. I don't know, but
No, it's no,
ultimately,
it, no, it's because you watch two 50-year-old guys kicking the shit out of each other, dude. That's
and
why.
they kicked the shit out of each other in a way that would have made us both hurt. I don't know. I'm right there with you, thinking that might be my favorite match of the year. That was amazing from start to finish, and all I want to do is see them do it again.
Yeah,
That's
me
it.
too. Me too. And
And that's
it's
what you
gonna
want.
happen. So
And that's what you want out of a match is you want to see those two guys do that again or better it.
last year was supposed to be, or was it even the year before? It was supposed to be Nagata's final G1. It was last year, right? Um,
I
it
think
might,
so, yeah.
that may not be the case because they might have to have him in there this year.
Oh my god, after his performance they have to.
well,
No question.
after his performance, but also they just might have enough guys otherwise to have a G1.
True.
Show's got to be in there for sure too. I think Show earned a spot in the G1 this year.
I think the only people that don't deserve a spot in the G1 are the God, I can't think of anyone. Like literally, if the field for the G1 was the exact same as New Japan Cup, I'd be okay with it.
Well, it
I
won't
re-
be. There's too many people. Remember
no,
the
I know, but
okay.
I would be okay with it because there's not a single performance from the New Japan Cup that I did not like and I did not think deserves that spot. Some of the young lions are not going to be there, but Uemura and Gabriel Kidd,
Hmm.
if they're not in the G1, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Well, they're not going to be.
No, but I'm still going to be disappointed because I think they
I, I
deserved it.
I'm not because I don't want New Japan to turn the G1 into what baseball turned the playoffs into this year. So I am really mad about what Major League Baseball did with the playoffs this year.
You don't want to talk about hockey playoffs then, considering only 4 teams have been eliminated.
Well, considering it's hockey, I probably don't ever want to talk about it ever. But
Oh, you made me hurt. My heart hurts. It's hockey, dude. You're Northern Minnesota. That's all you care about.
no, I'm not from northern Minnesota. So
You live in Northern Minnesota. You adapt to our culture.
no, I will never
Just,
like hockey and I'll never like the Vikings.
oh, you know what? I don't either. I grew up with a satellite dish, so I love the Dolphins. It's a whole story. We'll get into it sometime.
You love the Dolphins because you want them to save the Enterprise when the Enterprise is about to crash into the Earth or whatever the hell the
Wow,
story
what
was in
Star Trek
Star,
5 reference.
Star Trek
A
4,
really.
the Voyage Home.
No, it's 5. Wasn't it 5?
It was 4, the Voyage Home. 5 was a stupid one where
Oh,
they went
you're
in
right.
looking for God.
Oh, yep, you're right. You're right. Sorry, my bad.
It's okay.
Me and my Star Trek references were a little bit off.
Mine were dead on.
Anyway, um, did we have anything else we were going to talk about? I mean, I don't even feel like we covered this whole show.
We didn't, and the other the other thing I was going to say, when I started to say that New Japan is back full force, this is Sengoku Lord. It's only the second year they've ever had this show, and yet it's already become one of their major shows of the year because not only was there a world title defense and an ever defense on here, but they had 4 singles matches on this show.
Right?
You only get those in the major shows, and the one of those singles matches we didn't talk about was Ishimori facing Uemura in another outstanding match. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to when when it's weird to say this because they're already young lions and we've been seeing them for years. But when Uemura and Suji after they have their excursions and come back, well, maybe they won't even have excursions because of what's going on in the world right now. So maybe they'll actually just graduate into full time roles as superstars for the promotion. But I mean,
Well,
those guys are going to be fucking. And we say that we've been saying this for the last 4 years now. Every time there's a young lions class, they're fucking dynamite. I mean, this
right.
organization cannot do any wrong ever. It seems like.
And they haven't been able to for years. It's like when superstars leave. Well, let's face it. The Elite, Omega, the Bucks, even Paige and Cody were such a prominent part of NJPW, and they left. And what did NJPW do? They're like, fuck it. Jay White,
It
you're
goes,
now our
dude,
superstar.
dude. It goes even earlier than
Evil,
that. Remember when they lost AJ Styles,
yep,
Shinsuke Nakamura, and uh, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson on the same night?
yeah.
So, and
And they're,
completely reloaded. So
I, I'm blown away because they keep their core. Their core will always be there. And as far as I'm concerned, Gato is a booking god. I don't know that that guy can do any wrong. If he, of course, they're all going to make mistakes here and there. They're going to slip up once in a while. But Gato, with his long-term storytelling, is a genius. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody book anything like Gato does.
no,
Plain and simple.
every wrestling booker ever, including Vince McMahon, has had a shelf life.
Right.
And just because Vince doesn't know his shelf life is up doesn't mean it hasn't been up several times.
Right.
Gato has not hit that yet.
No.
So
And what he's been doing for what, 5 or 6 years now? The thing I like the most about Gato.
and even more, probably probably my favorite booker of all time is probably Dusty Rhodes, but he didn't know how to book a finish.
No.
And goddamn Gato knows how to book everything. It's amazing.
Well, you look at like even Bischoff. When Bischoff was running the NWO, he was really into long-term storylines. Look at the Sting storyline. That took a year and a half to pay off. But
Did
that's
wait wait wait
nothing.
wait did it pay off? Really?
No, it really didn't. That match was horrible.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, it took a year and a half before he got to the finish line.
Yeah.
Gato with Naito, that was a 5 year story that he told.
Right.
Who the hell does that? Who the hell looks at anything and says, dude, you're great now, but you're going to suck in a bit. We'll pay you up in 5 years. Who does that? And the fact that Gato can do that is mind boggling.
Well, the other thing is, the other thing that we have to mention in that same sentence is, the risk that he did on Okada. Okada comes back from excursion, and a month later, he's defeating the ace of the world for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
Well,
Seriously?
it's not just Okada. Look at the risk he took on Jay White. Look at the risk he took on Evil. This Evil storyline has, yes, gone on for a year, maybe a year and a half, but people wrote him off a year and a half ago, and now he's their champ.
Yep.
It's the risk, whatever Gato sees in people, he has this ability which is mind-boggling because he can take that ability and turn them in such a way I've never seen before. Like you look at American wrestling and you look at, well, unfortunately WWE, because that's been that for like the last 10, 15 years. Who have they promoted long term? Where they looked at a guy and said, yeah, you're an IC title holder, but someday you'll be the heavyweight title. Who's the last guy that did that? Edge, maybe?
Uh, Most likely. Yeah.
I mean, even Randy Orton didn't become a superstar until after he held the title once as a trial basis. But Edge might have been the last guy that got a long-term IC title run and then was catapulted to the heavyweight title.
And even he only got a short run at first because their plans were set in stone for WrestleMania, despite the ratings that Edge was bringing in.
Right, exactly. But if you look at New Japan, they don't do that. There's never that. Even Naito, he got his title run. It was blah, whatever. But it was part, when you look back now and you look at that, it was part of a much larger story. Like
Yep.
Naito's title run in 2014 or 15, I can't remember when, but his original title run was part of his demise, which then led him back to the title. It was a long journey. And the people that were in on that journey throughout were like, oh, hell yeah, we finally got to see it. We saw the culmination of this story.
And that's why Naito fans aren't mad about him losing the championship
Exactly.
because they got their story finished.
Right. And I'm the same way. Yes, I would have liked to see him hold it a little longer. Yes, I would have liked to seen it. But now that I'm looking at it going, well, man, I followed him for 5 years and I finally saw him finish his journey. And yes, he lost it to a traitor, but I'm okay with that
Because because
because
because because
that
it
was
because
the
it told
evil story.
Yeah, exactly. It tells another story and it creates another star.
Right. And I'm looking at that and I was when I originally saw that, if I saw that as just a flat out wrestling fan, I'm like, well, whatever. I would have been like, no, man, this sucks. Naito, he's my guy. But then when I took a step back and I looked and went, this is part of Evil's story now. Naito had his fairy tale ending. We saw his finish, and now his finish rolls into Evil, and now we're going to see Evil. It all made sense, and I was okay with it.
And see, that's how professional wrestling should be told. And Gato does a great job of it. That's why, and I think that's another reason why I was so frustrated with what happened with Okada getting the belt back from Jay White. It's like
Yeah,
it felt like you're not telling another story now. You're just going back to the one you just got done telling. So, but
and
it did
that's fair.
but it did work. But it did work in the favor of finishing Naito's story. So, I guess all is well that ends well.
I think ultimately Naito had to win that belt from Okada. Had he not, we never would have got the true finish of Naito's story.
Right, and you and I think both said that at the time. We just thought that Okada should get the belt back from Jay White at Dominion,
True.
Not at Supercard.
That's true. Yes, you're right.
So
You're right. So I don't know. Do you have anything else? I mean, we're an hour in.
I guess the only other thing I have to say is, I don't know what happened at Summer Struggle this weekend. Maybe you're right, and it was only a tag match. But if Naito did get the title back from Evil this weekend,
No, he didn't.
where is and even if he doesn't, even if he only gets it like back in a month, then like where is the next setup for a title shot um at shit, I know a King of Pro Wrestling. I mean, who's next in line then to face Naito? I just don't see it. And that's the thing is that Gato probably does. Gato's already 10 moves ahead of both of them.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, and to be
So maybe
honest,
maybe maybe it's
if
Suzuki.
it's, I hope it's another Lij member. I really think he needs to run through everybody he betrayed before, and whether it's Bushi or Shingo, even as if it's Bushi, who we know doesn't have a chance. I just think storyline it makes sense. I think at Wrestle Kingdom he needs to lose it to the G1 winner, whether that's Naito or Sonata, either one, and I would buy into either one. So I think, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do seriously
I
believe he needs to run through the Lij
yeah
roster.
yeah I agree. You know who I wouldn't buy is Shingo. I mean, I love Shingo. I think he's great in his role, and I think he could be a great guy at the top of the promotion. I just don't think he has the relationship with Evil that the other two do.
No,
That would make it you know that would make it emotionally um, involving.
to be honest, I think the Wrestle Kingdom needs to be the payoff between Shingo, or not Shingo, I'm sorry, Sonata and Evil. They were tag partners. They were the closest of friends. Evil betrayed him before everyone else. I think the ultimate payoff is Sonata versus Evil, and make those two of the pillars in one fell swoop, which
Yeah.
they could do at Wrestle Kingdom. But I'm afraid they're going to go with Naito over Sonata.
Well, and even I'm not afraid they're going to with Naito over Sonata because I just think that if they do, that if it is Sonata and Evil, it just won't be in the main event. It'll be something.
Right.
It'll be like a double main, or it'll be like the semi main, like they did with Jericho and Tanahashi,
That makes
or
sense.
with
Yeah.
Jericho and Omega. You know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and I mean, I really don't want to see Okada and Naito for the second year in a row at Wrestle Kingdom, but I don't know, I don't know where else they would go besides that.
The only way they work is the main event. Plain and simple. If it's going to be those two, the only way it works is the main event.
I know,
After
I,
two,
I know. I'm just saying, I just don't think that running the same main event 2 years in a row with those two works the way it did with Tanahashi and Okada.
well, and it depends. Is it going to be a double night main event? Which I'm sure it probably will, because we broke the virgin cherry on that, so we have to do it again. We have to have the 8 hour Wrestle Kingdom, or 10. Was it
You're
10?
You do realize that as we're speaking now on July 28th, there still has not been an official announcement of Wrestle Kingdom, right?
There will be.
I think there will be two, but I don't think it'll be a two-night event. I think that was a one-time thing.
I hope so because I can't. No, I don't hope so because I want 4 nights each night. I don't want 6 hour nights anymore. I'm done with it.
You couldn't even survive through the second night.
Oh my God, it wasn't my fault. It was technology's fault. I was up, I was ready to go, I was watching it, and technology screwed me.
And folks, that's what Jeff explains to his girlfriend every night about Viagra.
It's not a girlfriend in this house, so there's no complaining, there's no Viagra, no
Yeah.
girlfriend. Hey, anyone
There's
want to
there,
volunteer?
there's
Hit
no
me up.
being up there's no being up and ready to go then either.
Anyone want to change that? I've got a Twitter. I've got a Twitter and gas miles. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
A Twitter or a Tinder.
both.
Okay. Your
Although
is your
Tinder is off.
is your Tinder all a Twitter?
You know what? My Tinder has produced. I okay. I'm going to say this right now because I really don't give a shit. I made 4 matches on Tinder tonight. All 4 of them hookers. That's where I'm at with my life. So I'm staying home tonight. I'm just saying. Anyway,
Well, you're going to anyway. You got Arlo.
well, yeah, yeah, and my kid comes first, no matter what.
Yeah.
So
I really did thoroughly enjoy this show from top to bottom. We didn't really touch
early
it much on
too.
the 6 man or the 8 man or the 10 man, but those are enjoyable as matches on this thing as well. So,
We not only didn't touch on that, we didn't touch on the amazing match to open this with Ishimori versus Uemura.
oh, I touched on it. I just didn't go into depth in it.
Those two put on a hell of an opening match. It got me geared up for everything after that, and I loved it.
Yeah, and it was really and that's another strong example of Gato's booking is Ishimori has that great opening match against Uemura, heats him up a little bit in that match, and then he's there at the end of the night to to
Challenge
kick
Tanahashi,
the shit out of Takahashi
Takahashi.
and challenge him for the junior title. So yeah, so I mean, go watch this show, guys. It's really strong yet again from New Japan. And I guess next week we have two more New Japan shows to cover, right?
Two?
Summer Struggle Night 1 and Summer Struggle Night 2.
Oh yeah. And from what I hear, Summer Struggle Night 1 was great.
Sweet.
Well, which we would assume. I mean, that's not even a stretch on reality. That's just the way it works. But okay,
I really hope to at some point be able to watch the those Lion shows too, but I have not been able to even dial one of those up yet. So
and it's not even with everything else we have going on. Because I mean, we're watching Doom Patrol. We're working on is it Showdown in the Sun Night 2,
yep.
and eventually we will get to our AJ Styles Desert Island series, which I've got 2 of my matches. But man, that guy has some good matches. I am watching so much AJ Styles right now that I may hate him when I'm done because I'll be overdone with it. I'm just saying.
That's
But
funny.
there's so much great AJ Styles since 2002. It is really hard to pick my 4 favorites. I've got 2. I don't know if you've even started yet, but
I've got some in the back of my head that I haven't I haven't gone back and watched any of them, but I know like some ones that I really want to include in there, and I really right now my big debate right now is do I include the triple threat between
you have
Styles,
to.
Daniels, and Samoa Joe, or do I go Daniels versus Styles in that Iron Man? Because I'm not going to have a match with between him and Daniels twice, you know.
But
So,
I don't care. I don't care if he's against Daniels or Cena or whatever. Right now, I'm going to be honest. My 2, and I went back and watched that triple threat match, the first one, not the second one. The first one is my number 3. But I'm like you. I already have that Iron Man match, that 30-minute Iron Man match,
Hmm.
and I have Styles versus Cena at Royal Rumble. Those are my two right now. I have the triple threat match that's kind of on the cusp. It's like I'm struggling like you are with like, oh, that, that's everybody's golden match. I'm trying to find anything that will replace it. So I still have two more, but I have my two golden ones.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the Cena one either because that definitely is at the top of my mind. But at the same time, it's like, do I really want to watch? Am I really going to want to bring a John Cena match to my island?
Well, yeah, because we're eventually going to do a John Island or a John Cena
A
Island,
John Ireland one?
a John Cena Desert Island series.
I gotta get
Just
my
so you know.
I gotta get my dog. She's barking her head off. Be right back.
All right. Wait, what? You're making me filibuster
Yes,
right here about John Cena?
yes,
Really? I hate you. So, guys, um, literally, that's where we're at with our AJ Styles. And if you want to actually recommend any matches, we do these Desert Island series. We try to do them once a month. This one's taking a little longer because, well, it's the GOAT. The only guy in professional wrestling I've ever loved more than AJ Styles is Chris Jericho. And right now we are looking at AJ Styles matches. So if you have recommendations, please, by all means, send them to us. You can follow us on Twitter. My name is at GCoop. His name is at Sandman LOP. And the best way to get a hold of us is using the hashtag DAD and the hashtag KOH. We would legitimately love your suggestions for any of these Desert Island series that we do, especially right now, because AJ Styles has so many great matches that I would bring with me. It is really hard to get down to a top four. Really, really hard.
absolutely. Um, the other thing I was gonna say about those Lions Cup, I can't remember what they're called. Lions something. They've got going on right now is I've got to get into it because I really want to watch Carl Fredericks versus Jeff Cobb.
Yeah, and I've heard so many great things about that too, especially from Imp. That jerk keeps going on Twitter saying how great he is.
Who Carl
Love you,
Fredericks?
Imp. No. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But Imp does it, and as much as I hate Imp for doing it because I wanted to find out on my own, I still kind of love Imp.
How can you not? He's so full.
Yeah.
He's so full of positive energy, unlike you and I. So
Well, yeah, and he's British. He has tea. And he likes to do aftershocks at 2 in the morning.
yes,
So I love
yes,
him
yes,
for.
yes. He has tea, but being British, he probably doesn't have teeth.
I didn't say it, Imp. I love you. I love your teeth. Anyway, guys, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Up there, you're going to not only get our archives, but you're also going to get access to exclusive shows that we do. And coming up, we didn't do one last week or last night, and we didn't do our YouTube show last night, but we are definitely planning on doing it next week. It's just we had between Shane and I, all hell broke loose this week, so neither one of us could really get it done. So we're gonna do it next week. We're gonna do the first 3 episodes of Doom Patrol, which, by the way, I watched. Amazing. You got to hear our take on it. And then we're gonna do night 2 of Showdown in the Sun, and that will be our Patreon exclusive. The only way you can hear that is by going to patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. And then, of course, our YouTube channel, which I'm hoping you're listening on now. If you're not, head over to it. It is, and the reason I say if you're not, I'll get to in a second. But if you're not, head over to youtube.com/Kingdom of Honor and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell because we do this live stuff 2 to 3 times a week, depending on our moods. If you're not listening on kingdomofhonor.com, you are probably listening on Lord's youtube.com/LOP Calvin. And if you are on that one as well, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe button, ring that notification bell because there is so much content from so many people, including Imp, who we just dogged. And I'm sure he's going to hate us for that. But you know what? Imp, bring me tea. I'll still love you. And then, of course, I talked about our Twitter. I'm at Regi Co-op. He is at Zanman LOP. Hit the hashtag DAD and the hashtag KOH. You can find us anywhere by using those hashtags.
Absolutely. Imp, you know we love you, and you know we'll be listening to Imp's LP Radio Adventure on Thursday. But first, tomorrow night, we have Diamond After Dark, and I still haven't watched last week's Dynamite yet. How was it, Jeff? Was it good?
I didn't watch it either. I've been so. I mean, seriously, since I've had my kid now like 17 days in a row, it's been crazy, crazy here.
These are
So no, I
crazy,
haven't watched it yet either.
crazy, crazy, crazy nights.
Maybe, maybe I'll watch it tonight. Maybe
I
I won't.
I won't. I might watch it before that, but
Regardless,
I might watch. I
regardless,
might do a double header tomorrow though.
I do need to tell you, someone made their reappearance last night.
Reappearance last night.
He is back, or last Wednesday. He is back. The Spanish God returned.
Oh, good.
So now the inner circle is complete, and we can move forward.
It's no longer a semicircle.
As long as they take out Cody, I don't give a shit. I don't care if it's square at this point.
And with that, that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.